It was a surprisingly hot and sunny day for April, and William, Molly, Jack and I decided to go for a walk up and over the cliff, down to the bay, to enjoy the summer-like weather in spring. Being the outdoorsy type myself, I was more than pleased that the blue sky had shown up and we could enjoy Galia Bay in all its glory once again. I can recall looking forward to it all day, whilst I made sausages and hung meat for Mr. Fenchurch in his butcher's. Working as his apprentice was a great job, and I worked hard at it, but my mind tended to wander from time to time, to doing something more adventurous and sporting with my young life. I can remember my mother always said that I had a head full of dreams, and one day one might leak out and become a reality. Well, that spring day, one of my dreams didn't exactly come true, but I did something quite adventurous, I must admit. Not that I'm looking for a medal or anything, but it was quite heroic, and I shan't ever forget it. It began when we were walking up the steep cliff path towards Galia Head that led to the bay, when Jack pulled out his binoculars to spot any seabirds. He was, and still is, mad about anything that has wings or flies. His father served as a pilot in the war, and even though he gave his life in service, Jack was determined to make him proud and fly for his country as well one day.
Golly!
He hollered from behind his binoculars, looking most peculiar indeed.
I do believe that's a kestrel, you know.
You might be right,
my brother replied, looking at the bird in the distance, soaring above the sea.
Looks like one for certain. What a bird to see! And what a way of gliding it has.
Oh, yes,
Jack said, beginning to spout information faster than a garden tap.
You see, despite the fact they belong to a fast family of birds, they're awfully good at hovering, you know. They also have a phenomenal eyesight, which makes them quite extraordinary hunters. And something else that's quite amazing about them is...
that you don't stop talking about them?
Molly butt in, jabbing her younger brother in the side playfully.
No, they're quite small for a bird of prey, but if you don't want to listen, you don't have to.
Oh, I was only jesting, Jack. I'm sorry. It's just you speak about things that fly so often. I wonder if anything else goes on inside your head.
Oh yes, plenty else. Me flying.
Very funny, Jack.
Yes, I thought it was. Now stop distracting me or else I'll lose the... Oh, blast, it's already gone.
Ah, well, I said with a cheeky smile. It's probably for the best. After all, if you start bird spotting up here, we shall never even get to the bay, because we'll be stuck here keeping an eye on you.
I could handle myself.
I don't think so. You're only 9, Jack, and these cliffs can be jolly dangerous if you're not careful.
I'm careful. I wouldn't go too close to the edge.
I don't know if you wouldn't. You'd probably try and jump off and see if you could fly.
Don't be daft, William. Humans can't fly. Not without an aeroplane, anyway.
It doesn't matter. Lester's right. You're not staying up here by yourself, and that's that. Now, come on. Let's catch the last of the sun before it goes down. I bet the water is perfect for a dip.
What a good idea. I could do with a good cooling off. That climb up the cliff has a way of making you sweat more than a pig in a butcher's shop. And believe me, I should know.
It's going to feel so good to get in the water and not shiver. Mother loves to swim all year round, and she made me go with her last winter. Gee, it was cold. But she says that it's good for your
Circulation?
Yes, that word. Now come on, last one there is the rotten egg.
Well, we sprinted our way down the cliff path, and I soon found out that I was the rotten egg. My blasted shoelaces untied halfway down, and I wasn't going to chance tripping on them with a great big drop just a few feet away. But despite that, I did eventually get onto the beautiful soft sands of Galia Bay. It had been warmed by the sun, and I took off my shoes to feel it. Gosh, it felt good. But it felt even better to run into the water and kick the waves around again. Molly was right. It just wasn't the same when it wasn't warm, and the water was just right that evening, having been heated up all day. And all 4 of us splashed around in it for a good long while, dunking and swimming and tossing coins, having the greatest of fun. That was until something unexpected happened. You see, William, Molly and I had been having such fun in the water that we hadn't noticed that Jack had gone missing. We knew he hadn't gone under because his shoes that were on the shore weren't there anymore. But he had instead left prints in the sand all the way back towards the cliff path. We all looked at each other in concern because we knew how Jack had talked about taking care of himself earlier that evening. Barely drying off, we pulled our shoes back on and darted up the path to find him. Molly was especially worried, bearing in mind that her mother had told her to look after Jack, and he was prone to wandering. Soon we had reached the cliff top, and we hollered for him over and over as the sun dipped low on the horizon and the signs of night time began to creep in. But we couldn't hear or see him anywhere. The three of us stuck close together, and William began to worry that our parents would begin to fret over us. After a little while longer, calling his name over and over again, we soon had it decided to run back and alert the adults. We were about to make for port when all of a sudden, over the noise of the waves crashing into the cliff wall, I heard a familiar voice. "Help!" it shouted. "Help me! Please help me!" It yelled over and over. Molly ran like nose in the winter, and we all followed suit. The shout seemed to be coming from the edge of the cliff, and I got on my belly and the others grabbed my legs as I peered most carefully and cautiously over the edge. I flashed my light down below, and much to my horror, Jack was backed up against the cliff wall, trying desperately to remain still. He was standing on a jutted out piece of rock, and he seemed to be barely holding on, and he was as pale as a glass of milk. He was too far for me to grab him alone, and even if all of us were to grab hands in a chain, I doubted that even that would work, and it was far too dangerous. Molly was panicked, and William desperately tried to calm her.
Don't worry, Molly. It will be all right. We'll work out a way to save him, we will.
How do you know?
Molly exclaimed in fear.
What can we do? We're only kids. We need to get the adults.
No, there's not enough time. We can't make Jack hold on that long.
"He's right, Molly," I agreed. "We have to do this ourselves."
But how? What can we do?
"I'm not sure. William, any ideas?"
Not really. Jack, can you climb up a little so we can reach you?
No, I jolly well can't.
Jack cried out from beneath me.
I think I broke my ankle when I fell, and I can barely stay upright as it is. And what if I slip or grab a loose rock? That's curtains for sure.
"Try to be positive, Jack."
It's hard to be positive when you're nearly halfway down a 50-foot cliff. You try and be positive when the ocean is crashing underneath you.
"All right," I called back, realising my optimism wasn't exactly helping the situation. "I'm sorry. Just hold on, and we'll find a way to rescue you."
Very funny.
"Oh, sorry. I didn't mean it as a joke. I realise it came out wrong, but I wasn't intending it to be any..."
Would you please stop apologising and get on with rescuing me? Sort of in a perilous position here?
"Right, yes. What can we do? Oh, wait, I know. I've got some rope in my backpack. I always keep it in there in case, well, you never know when you might need it. Should be long enough too. I'll throw that to him, and he can use it as a harness and tie it around himself."
Do you think it'll work?
"I reckon so. Besides, what other option do we have? Right, there's no time to waste. William, you hold this end and tie it tight around that rock over there. You're good at tying knots, aren't you?"
Oh, yes, very good. Uncle Rodney's taught me plenty of them. A bowline should do the trick.
I don't care what it is. Just save my brother.
"Don't worry, Molly. He'll be all right. Now, Jack, I'm going to throw you this rope, and I want you to tie it tight around your waist, okay?
Okay, I'll try.
Here it comes. Grab it. Have you got hold of it?"
Just give me a moment.
"All right. Now, Molly, you hold on to the rope along with William, and I'll hold on to it too. If we all pull, we should be able to get Jack back over the edge again. Are you ready now, Jack?"
I think so.
Think so? This isn't really a think so situation, Jack. Are you sure you're secure?
Yes, I'm sure. Get me out of here.
Okay then. Right, on the count of 5, we're going to pull you out.
Forget the countdown and pull already!
All right, everyone, pull!
And so we did. We pulled and we pulled and pulled again. Molly yanked the rope at the back, and William and I gripped it at the front, with white knuckles all around. We could hear Jack yelling and shouting as he was lifted up from the jutting out rock and into the air, and we pulled even harder to rescue him and get him on solid ground. Soon, after a struggle from all of us, we saw his 2 hands clutch the grassy verge, and I leapt to grab them. The others were yanked forward by my suddenly letting go, and they dug their feet into the dirt to keep the rope steady. I clasped Jack's hands, and after one last tug, he flew over onto the grass and collapsed in a heap. Molly ran to him and gave him a huge hug, and he pushed back at her with a laugh.
All right, not so hard, you're squeezing me.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just so worried about you.
Oh, you needn't have been. I was all right. In fact, once I got used to being lifted up like that, it was sort of like flying. Just a little more painful, with the horrible rope wrapped around my waist. Help me get it off, will you? I think it might have grazed me.
Well, you can get the grades cleaned up and your ankle checked as soon as we get home. Our folks must be worried something awful about us. It's almost 8:30 and it's getting dark.
You're right, I agreed, helping Jack to his feet and getting all of us away from the edge. We ought to try and head back now. Let me just gather my rope. As I was getting it and putting it in my backpack once again, I heard a familiar voice. Then I saw torchlights dancing ahead of us. And all of a sudden, Mrs. Doris and my uncle were running towards us.
Oh, Mother,
Molly exclaimed, embracing Mrs. Doris with a wide smile.
what are you doing here?
I could ask you the same thing, Molly. You had me pacing the floor. What on earth happened? You were supposed to be back for supper.
Jack fell off the cliff, Miss Doris.
William said bluntly.
You see, he went off on his own whilst we were swimming to birdwatch, and we didn't notice he'd gone. Then when we did notice, we went off looking for him and eventually found him standing precariously on a jutting out rock on the cliff wall.
But don't worry, Mrs. Doris. I had an idea to use some rope and throw it down to him. I always carry some with me. So we threw it down to him and tied the other end to that rock and pulled him up. And he's all right now, aren't you, Jack?
Yes, well, mostly. But I think I've broken my ankle, Mother.
I'm not surprised with a fall like that. You're blessed to be alive. Thank the Lord you're okay. We could have lost you, Jack. Why on earth did you leave the others? And Molly, didn't I ask you to watch him to make sure he didn't run off?
I'm so sorry, Mother. I feel just rotten about all of this.
Well, feeling rotten won't help any. I'm so glad you're all right. Jack, can you walk on your ankle?
No, not really.
Oh dear, I'll have to take a look at it when we get home. It's too dark up here. Now let me give you a hug. Oh goodness, I'm glad you're okay.
Well, I must admit I'm proud of you, Lester. Thinking of an idea like that.
My uncle said, putting his arm around me and William.
Your parents would have been proud of you, son.
Thank you, Uncle. I wish I could tell them about it.
If they were still with us, I'm sure that they would also say you are a hero. And I say it too.
Well, heroes, come along now. The missus will want to know you're safe. She's probably still having kittens about you two. Jack, do you want me to hold your arm and help you back?
No thanks, Mr. Cole.
Jack said, slowly.
I'd rather someone else did it, if you don't mind.
And why? Got something against fishermen, have we?
Oh, no, sir, it's just, well...
Well, what?
Well, I don't mean to be rude, sir, but you sort of smell.
Jack, don't be so rude.
I'm sorry, Mother, but he does.
Oh, don't you worry, Mrs. Doris. I can see when I'm not wanted. If he doesn't want me to hold him up, then I won't. I'll just carry him instead. Well, come on up here. There you go.
Oh, heavens, put me down. Oh, you do smell.
And so, as you can see, that day, I did something more adventurous than I think I had done or have done since. and although I still dream of going off and doing something exciting and sporting someday, I'd had quite enough excitement that day to last me a long while after.
In this episode of Port Galia, we see little Jack Doris encounter a terrible turn of events, when instead of listening to his siblings and friends and staying with the group, he found himself in a dangerous situation on the cliffs. If it hadn't been for Lester's idea to use a rope to pull him back up to safety again, things could have ended much, much worse, and his disobedience could have been perilous. The Bible warns us of this in 1 Peter 5:5 that says, "Likewise, you younger people, submit yourselves to your elders." Jack did not do this, and he was blessed to get out of his terrible situation with just a broken ankle and a graze or two. But things don't always go like that, and oftentimes disobedience can be and has been deadly. So remember, 1 Peter 5:5, and submit to those who are older than you. It could be that it keeps you from literally falling into serious danger.